But guys, are you feeling patriotic, right? The Republicans are. We know that they are. The patriotism is all over the country right now. But if you're a Democrat, it's not so much, because we have the latest Gallup poll of the percentage who said that they are very or extremely proud to be American. If we look, it starts out back in 2001. Democrats, 87% said yes. 90% of Republicans said yes. Exactly kind of, where you think the country would be right after 9/11, everybody coming together. If you fast forward to 2025, Democrats are only 36% yes right now, 92% for Republicans. So that's +2 for Republicans, minus 51%. So Matt, when we look at this, how do you even coexist when we get results like this in this poll? How do we look at this and say we share a country with these people?
Yeah, it's important never to forget that this country is still very, very deeply divided in ways that, most countries aren't for very long before falling apart. And it's just a fact. I mean, it's just a historic fact. You can't disagree on what men and women are. You can't disagree on what the family is. You can't disagree on what citizenship is. You can't disagree on what the nation is. You can't disagree on whether your nation is good or bad in this way without, ripping apart at some point. So this is still extremely concerning and, a real problem. It's only gotten worse. And I would say that there's a certain childishness to this and the way that people have been taught their country is bad. So if you look at this over the decades, there's anti-Americanism that's been taught in the schools. This is deeply immoral in a way. Thomas Aquinas said centuries ago, you owe respect naturally to God, your parents, and your country. I mean, people recognize this. You owe that. And guess what? Everyone who's patriotic, they're not idiots. They know their country is bad. They know that their country makes mistakes, just like your parents screwed up and make mistakes. They're not perfect. But at some point, you have to grow up and give them the respect that's due, right? And that's what's going on here. It's like this weird perfect abstraction in people's heads, and our country is so bad. And it just sounds like a teenage kid who's rebellious. Sounds like a child, an ill-tempered child. And this has grown and metastasized throughout the country. Now, of course, it's based in race hatred and other worse things. And I don't think we can underestimate it. Is it? Chris, it's not just like a boomer oh, these people are. The demon rats are communists, I mean, this is a deeply rooted problem in people's souls. And if you feel dispossessed, right, you're ready for all kinds of bad things if you really think that your country is evil.
You're right, and you were exactly right earlier. You don't really what makes a people, what unites them. You've got generally a shared religion. You've got a shared history. You've got a shared language. You have shared borders. Shared cultural mores. I mean, there's going to be differences between Northeast culture and Texas culture and California culture, but you've got the same values over what is right, what is wrong, what deserves an apology. Although some people in the South are still more pro cockfighting and some people in the North are pro horse racing than maybe you'll find in other parts of the country. Generally speaking, you're united in that. You have the same shared history, you have the same shared holidays, you have the same shared heroes. That was one of the really nasty things that happened during the Summer of Love, was all of the shared heroes who were torn down. Not even just Confederates, but framers of the American Constitution and the Founding Fathers. You had abolitionists torn down by, I guess, Black Lives Matter crowds or more the white students that were helping to run those things. You had Union generals that had their statues torn down, people who were crucial to actually ending that war. And the point of that is they come for the statues and then they come for you. But there's also that rot inside. And I've noticed this over the years and years where there's a lot of different words that just mean what I want for the Democrats. If they like something, it's democratic. When Donald Trump won in 2016 without the popular vote, that was not democracy, that was despotism. Justin Trudeau never won the popular vote a single time in Canadian history. But that because they have a parliamentary system of government, he was the prime minister. That wasn't undemocratic because they got the way they wanted it to. When Viktor Orban said we're not teaching transgender studies to grade school students anymore, the European Union called it undemocratic. So we held a national referendum. It overwhelmingly was supported by the people, but it was still undemocratic because the EU bureaucrats didn't like it. And the same thing goes for the patriotism. Remember, one of the many just truly deeply awful things that Michelle Obama, who, by the way, is definitely the worst of those two, said was when her husband was running and got the nomination, she said, "This was the first time I've ever felt pride in my country." Well, that's a problem because you're going to be the first lady of the United States. And, you know, I hate to be too much of a love it or leave it. You got the right to protest. You have the right to dislike things. I mean, I've talked to U.S. combat veterans with tears in their eyes saying, "I'm not sure what I fought for anymore," during some of the darker years of those riots, saying, "I'm not sure this country stands internationally or nationally for the values that I fought abroad for." Yes. I can see those moments of despair, but at the end of the day, this is it. This is the last place. Where are you going to go? You're going to go to Canada? You're going to go to Australia? Exactly. I talked to some black-pilled right-wingers who are, "I'm going to go to Ecuador." All right. This is it. I'm staying here. Maybe if things get really bad, I'll make sure that my young kids and my wife get out. But I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying. And that sort of attitude is essential. It's powered every patriotic country. There has not been a death spiral of decline ever. And when it's threatened here as much as it is, it's a real threat to the future.
Yeah, and it strikes me that, you know, take two popular songs, right? It strikes me that people who are patriotic understand that their country isn't perfect. They're not idiots. And
right? I can't stand "Proud to Be American." It's such a bad song.
Right. So take Jimi Hendrix playing the Star Spangled Banner, which I take to be a great example of this, where there's a lot in that electric piece. So take the good side of boomerdom, which brought us so much culture, and it's not unpatriotic. Like the idea that it's unpatriotic, I think, is ridiculous. Everyone who listens to it sees it as patriotic, but they know that there's all kinds of stuff mixed up in there. And whether Bruce Springsteen, right, intended it or not, Born in the USA, and I think he intended it, that's a song that in some way is a protest song, but it's a patriotic song, right? And everyone who listens to it knows that. You know, I don't understand. Like, there's no nuance on the left with this. America's evil to the core, blah, blah, blah. Like, you think people who lived through Vietnam didn't know, like, their country doesn't make mistakes, but they're still patriotic? Like, that's like every veteran who votes right in America, they know that. And acting on that belief, the reality of your country being flawed, just like your parents have made mistakes too. At some point, you grow up and you try to help them the best you can, and you move forward. And you're right. Especially if you say, "No, I'm going to stay here and fight to the end," that gives us the sort of hope we need. But it really is bizarre to me the way in which educated people and people who are trying to, you know, ingratiate themselves with the elites act on this stuff. It's so stupid. Like they're the ones who are simplistic. I don't know. I should stop ranting here, but we could go on forever. Yeah.
What's lacking in their lives is properly understood Christianity, and I can say that pretty assuredly.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have folks say to me, "Oh, you go to church every Sunday with your family? You must be a great person." Well, you don't have to go to church every Sunday if you're a great person. That's a place where sinners gather. We are flawed. The church has flaws. The people in the pews have flaws. People have to go to confession for a reason. It's an essential aspect of it. But for things to be unforgivable, for the past to be irredeemable, for your ancestors who gave you what you have to be monsters, that takes a very unchristian, very kind of pagan understanding of what this is, and it reflects in those polls.